Now, it's going to be no surprise to anyone that who watches my channel, even semi-regularly, that I like skeletons. So I love Skeleton Champion, partly nostalgia, because I used to play, whenever I was like tired or something, I didn't really feel up to playing ladder, I'd often play a Skelly face-off with Banana Schwab friends, and we both play Skeleton Sorcerer, and it was always great fun. Although Banana Schwab, his Skeleton Champion, was much more loyal and would come out regularly for him. And mine used to be quite shy, but it was just great fun. All the hissing sounds going back and forward on the board, it was a good laugh. So I like Skeleton Champion. And obviously he's got the scary eyes effect going on there. And all the sort of mist in the background. Again, this is a case in point that the background, most of the effects being in the background, does make the main part of the card stand out more. Really like Skeleton Champions, one of the best skeletons in my opinion. Spiny Harsh. Not a great fan of the art, but it is a very, very fun card to play with. I think the premium's a bit better because you've got a bit of dust motes on the ground and a bit of movement in the background. And my main memory that I have associated with this card is I used to play a lot of friendlies with Mr. Death, AZZ. Phenomenally talented, creative deck builder, very strong player. And we used to have some hilarious friendlies. And he actually did really well. I forget which gauntlet it was, but he did really well with a Spiny Harsh deck in one of the gauntlets and was, I think, placed in the top 10. So I always think of that card when I think of Mr. Death. Like, you associate certain cards with certain people. And by the way, you'd think somebody's called Mr. Death. You wouldn't think that would be a very nice person, but such a lovely person to chat to and play games with. He was just phenomenally creative and so much fun to play with. Not a great fan of the art on this one. It's a bit boring, isn't it? The effect around the weapons is quite attractive though. That does actually elevate the card. Plus you've got the moving sky in the background, which if you focus on that, rather than the rather greenish looking orc. That's quite relaxing in the background. Premium is definitely better to me than the standard. Okay, there's an alternative art version. It was in a starter pack. No, I was just thinking, I think there was a starter pack that I bought maybe about 6 months into the game. I know it sounds odd buying it about 6 months into the game, but I'd got so much free playtime out of the game that I wanted to give something back, so I did buy it. I bought it mainly for the Alt Art Leaf Lurker, so this was obviously in that bundle. I think it was quite cheap. It was only about £5 or £6. The art on that's okay, but yeah, I mainly got that pack for the Leaf Lurker. You very rarely see strategic deployment played. Sometimes it's in a imperial. You might see like a tribal type deck. You might get. I think they come out as Imperials. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen it played. Not a great fan of the art though, because it is quite dark looking. That does improve it having it as premium. You've got the smoke and you've got the cloak moving and that. But it's just overall quite a lot of dark muted colours in the card, so it's not going to be a favourite of mine. And I can have the cards that I particularly enjoy, even if it's not one I play on ladder, but some of them visually are very attractive. This is really ugly, I have to say. It's a rubbishy card for Rally. And it's just ugly to boot, isn't it? So it's a few more points of interest on there for it being premium, but it's just so ugly. It is what it is. The premium is marginally better. Hello, Midnight. He's coming over for a cuddle. Good boy. I got really indignant because at one point I kept getting Betty Netch as one of my free rewards, daily login rewards, and I just get so indignant about it because it's so useless. mean, there's plenty of better ways of boosting your max magicka. Admittedly, the premium is quite pretty to look at, isn't it? But I got a bit indignant, and also a few times elderly matron has given me that as a creature, and I get indignant then as well. I feel betrayed. I think, how dare you give me that? But it's quite pretty as a premium, isn't it? Pretty but useless. I suppose you could say pretty useless. Bone Weaver. I've seen some people get value out of this card, but I never have. I like the colour scheme on it, but the art is not that great. I don't find it that great personally. That does massively improve it, the effects on there. And he does stand, I think he stands out a little bit more. Seems a bit more defined given the light effects on him. So the premium I think is better. Now, you very rarely see Cave Bear outside of Versus Arena. Occasionally you might just chuck one in an animal deck for a laugh. I mean, it's quite a costly card for what it is. I know it's got good stats, but it's very vulnerable to things like Fell the Mighty. I do have a little bit of a soft spot for it because it's a grizzly bear, and I like bears. In fact, my late cat Marcus, we used to nickname him Bear because he'd sometimes stand up on his hind legs and sway like a grizzly would. So, and also he could be unfriendly sometimes. So that was his nickname, was Bear. He was the TESL Tom, the original TESL Tom, who'd actually watch while I was playing games. Dark Anchor. The art on it's okay. And it can be quite a fun card. I went through a phase where I played it for a bit, for a laugh. That's actually quite attractive, the premium, isn't it? So it is fun if you want to just have a random element into your match. I'm not personally a great fan of lots of random RNG effects, but the odd one here and there can be fun. Look at Deathhound slobbering away there. He does look a bit on the vicious side, doesn't he? Yeah, that's quite atmospheric, the premium actually, so I think the premium is just that little bit better. It's quite atmospheric. You've got the glowing eyes, and because most of the effect is behind him, he does stand out and have quite a lot of definition. There's only a little bit of smoke or fog in front of him, so the premium is a bit better. Not a great fan of this. The art on this card. It's a very useful card for Doomcrag decks. Her outfit's okay, I suppose, but I suppose because it's just the the colours are again a little bit on the muted side, so I like things to be a bit more vibrant than that. But the premium's an improvement, definitely. You've got the fire effect in the background, providing a bit of movement and interest. Faded Wraith. Often used buffed to get plenty of draw. It can feel a really cool moment when you actually manage to do it. I mean, the art itself is slightly cartoonish, so I'm less keen on the art, but very useful card. Yeah, actually, I just think it's got some pretty purple coming off of it, but in fact the premium version does make it look a little bit more cartoonish, actually. However, I'll say the premium is better than the standard purely because you've got the purple coming off of him, and I like purple, which is not a great reason, but hey. Fallen Dragon. The art's okay on this, actually. I mean, it's a pity that it comes down wounded because I know that's the whole point of it because it's a Fallen Dragon, but I just think And I know not everybody runs green agility in their decks, but I always think that's an automatic finish off or leaf flag job because it comes down, it damages itself. So that would be a big deterrent for me for playing such a card. Well, I do quite like the art on the premium. It just stands out that little bit more. Here's one of my darlings. It's Hallowed Death Priest. It's always funny when he catches. I always have this little story in my head that he secretly loves Mirak because he's got a pretty good track record of mummifying Mirak. If I'm up against an opponent who's running willpower in their deck, 9 times out of 10 he'll mummify Mirak. I also like it when he mummifies Parthenax, Alduin, and although I find Odahviing the most handsome of dragons, it's quite funny when he mummifies that as well. In fact, there was a time when I used to run Odahviing in decks purely to be there to catch any mummify effects from Hallowed Death Priest if an opponent was playing it. It's a bit of an expensive way to mitigate, but sometimes I had cards around the 7, 8, 9 mark that I actually wanted to keep, so having a big dragon in hand to take the hit for them was quite good. But yes, I do like Hallowed Death Priest, even when... Let's go back there a second. Even when he's played against me, I'll always chuckle along, and I will always say nicely done in the emotes when someone plays him, because it's one of my favourites. If I can give it out, I can take it, can't I? So it's only fair to smile. And that is a lovely premium effect on there. So I like both versions of the card, but that's particularly good. You don't often see this played outside of Versus Arena. Again, the background's a bit on the muted side for my taste. But it's quite a nice looking fabricant, isn't it? And that effect does actually make it look pretty well enhanced. It just seems to stand off the and jump out of the card a bit more. It seems to have a bit more definition, so the premium is definitely better in my book. I like this. I went through a phase. I've not played him much recently, but probably about 2 years ago, I used to play him quite a bit. I like the Exalt effect, so he can't be targeted with actions. I think... Is he the one that says 3 gods, 1 true faith? Justice or something. I like both the standard and the premium. The premium is a bit more subtle and understated, isn't it? But I like both. They're probably about equal to me for me. Lurking Mummy. It's okay. It's just not... Well, for one thing, I get a bit annoyed when I see it come down as a prophecy because it can often save an opponent, but the art's okay. It's just it's not anything special. And actually, I think I prefer the standard version because that effect over the top of it. The eyes are a bit distracting, but that effect over the top of it makes him look faded rather than whereas the definition here, it just looks so much more, he pops out more of the card. Much better in standard than premium. Shadowfen's one of my darlings. Auto include for me in any deck that runs endurance. I'll always run at least 2, preferably 3. I think I got this one from an event. It might have been an event 2 to 3 years ago. I know, yeah, probably at least 2, maybe 3 years ago, because it hasn't featured an event for ages. I do like the that premium. It just, again, it's quite a simple sort of premium, but I do like that one. However, this is the one that I tend to run more often. I just think the art on it is a bit more interesting, so I tend to mainly run this one. Again, I think that was from an event. I haven't played this mammoth for a long period of time. I did try doing a deck 2 or 3 years ago called a mammoth problem. But there just weren't enough mammoths, really. But I did manage to make it go off with the breakthrough, extra power with the breakthrough, and used it to finish a match. It's just long before I started recording that I used to occasionally play that. And yes, actually the colour does actually appear more vivid on that premium, doesn't it? He's got glowing eyes going on as well. So yeah, I think the premium's just that little smidgen better. Gatekeeper. He once saved my hide in a game where I actually was up against a very aggressive opponent who had the ring and really whittled my health down very fast. So after about 3 rounds it was obvious it wasn't going to go well, and I Galened in Gatekeeper, and luckily for me I drew all the extra ones, so and that pretty much allowed me to turn the game, so very useful card. I mean, mid-range is what I like the most. Yeah, that's quite atmospheric. I do prefer the premium. Mid-range is what I like but most of all on ladder, really. I think it's more versatile. You can play aggressive if you want to. You can play for the later stage of the game as well. But I will sometimes run Gatekeeper in and very low to the ground aggressive deck. Just purely because I can put it in another lane. It's decent hit power, and then it's not actually affecting my other creatures. Because even if it's not in limiting your opponent's options, it's still got decent hit power on there, hasn't it? Anyway, I like the premium more. I think it just pops out a little bit more, the art, and you've got the lightning in the background. Okay, not the most interesting card, but at least she's wearing fairly sensible looking armour for a change. Just a bit of movement on the card. The premium does actually make her stand out just that little bit more. I think her face pops out a bit more on that version. And it's featuring the armour, so I think that's a decent premium. Kind of fond of this one because as I said earlier, I did run Redoran werewolves when I was a newbie, and this obviously featured because one of the few werewolf cards it featured quite heavily, and I like the effect when it goes off when you manage to sort of make it into a werewolf. The art on it's good. But I actually, although that's quite a lovely visual effect, I actually prefer the standard card. I think that effect, it's not so much the green emanating off of the shield, because that's actually quite attractive. It's more the fact that just that gold colour on there, it looks a bit fake. Maybe it's a bit too bright, even for me. It just looks a little bit on the fake side, so yeah, I prefer the standard art. Bishop of the Hour, I've only really played him in Versus Arena, and he's quite fun when you can align things properly in order to give the next creature a 5/5. It's quite expensive for what he does though, isn't he? The art's okay, it's not anything particularly exciting, is it? Premium is nice though. I mean, you've got the background's got quite a lot of interest going on in it. And I know it's mainly mist, and there's a bit of movement on his hair, but it's a decent enough premium. Now, I have played Black Marsh Centurion in the past. I've played him on ladder with my Argonian tribal deck, and I do like, if you can get him to pull off the guard effect, then he's a decent guard. I think I might have taken him out of my later version of the Argonian Tribal. just because he's a little bit on the slow side. So funnily enough, since I've taken him out, the Argonian tribal seems a little bit less effective, so maybe I ought to put him back in again. I do like the premium better. The light looks lovely. It looks like a lovely honey-coloured light. And the weapon lights up as well. So definitely an improvement on the standard version. Like all the colours in this card, I mean it's a very difficult one sometimes to... If you're up against aggro, it can be very hard to get value out of this. And many a time when I have been running it, I haven't got value out of it because it's just a bit late, and if they've whittled down my health, I'm never going to get value. But I quite like the colour scheme on there. I like this version as well, though obviously the colours, before the effect lights up, look a bit muted. So although it's the same card, obviously, I like them both in different ways, pretty much equally. Because on the standard one, the cards are very rich and deep. On here, you've got a very pretty visual effect. So they both have their pluses. I'd say they're pretty much equal in my estimation. Cicero. Such a great line. Need to get mother some flowers. Pretty, pretty flowers. And so the person that I always think of when I see this card is a player who was called Pretty, Pretty Flowers for quite some period of time. And so they're nicknamed Pretty. And those people who knew them as that name, they've changed their name since, but those of us who knew them by that name, we still call them Pretty even now. So that's who I think of when I think of Cicero. And the Cicero card, the art on it's pretty mellow, isn't it? I mean, okay, visually there's not much extra going on for your premium legend. But I do think the background does make him stand out just that little bit more. So I prefer the premium. This makes me smile. I like it when he says dinner is served. That just appeals to my sense of fun. Quite a decent piece of art there, and there's two people that come to mind when I see Doomcrag. One is my friend Kate, who got me into TESL in the first place because she used to like to run vampire decks, so she'd have her vampire decks. And so I kind of first came across Doomcrag through that. And then obviously Night Dark Wolf, he's well known for playing Doomcrag decks. So they're the two people I think of when I see Doomcrag. And I do like the art on the premium particularly. I mean, okay, there's a bit muted in the background. It's a very relaxing card to look at, isn't it? Maybe not so relaxing if you're worrying about how to get it off the board when you're playing against it, but yeah, generally speaking, a nice relaxing card. Flesh Atronach, I used to play this quite a lot, not with charge, which is the classic of course. When I was playing this regularly, I was a fairly new player and didn't even think about cool combos like getting charge on it, so for a one-turn kill. I just played it because it was in, I think it was in my monthly rewards fairly early on, so I kept playing it for a bit. Obviously it's a bit of a hideous looking individual, isn't it? But that's because it is an Atronach, a flesh Atronach, so what do you expect really? I'd say that art is an improvement on the standard. It's still a pretty evil looking creature though, isn't it? I'm not a great fan of this. I think the art is very muted colours. It's also way too expensive for what it is. The purple effect in the background does redeem it somewhat. So the premium is definitely much improved on the standard version, but it's still not that exciting a card visually. I mean, you've got the purple and the pink, and that's about it really. Night Predator, never see him get played, even in werewolf decks, I think because he's just that little bit pricier, isn't he? And regenerates one of the weaker keywords. However, that is
a much better premium than the standard art. I mean, he really does stand out with that effect behind him. His face just seems to come alive as well. It looks pretty sinister, I have to say. But yeah, much improved, and that could be a candidate for like a potential hypnotic card. I mean, if you can ignore his face and just concentrate on the effect behind him, that could be quite hypnotic, couldn't it? Night Shadow again, featured in my friend Kate's vampire deck. So I tend to think of her when I think of Night Shadow, because she taught me the very basics of the game and introduced me to it. So I tend to think of him as one of her team. Fairly understated premium there. There's not a huge amount going on, is there, visually? I like both versions pretty much the same. Now here's a card of true beauty. Even the still is very beautiful because just the colours, the ambience. Necromancer, such a powerful card in the game. But just look at this, it's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? I know my friend Kate wanted to have a premium copy of this. I hope she's got one now that everything's only one gold in the game. But very, very beautiful indeed. However, for me, whenever I play this version of Necromancer, I never ever see it come out of my deck into my hand. Never. It's a bit naughty that way. Which brings me on to my faithful friend. So this was obviously for a Grand Melee, and although the art on the other one I think is better, I prefer this card because, well, for sentimentality reasons really. He's such a faithful friend. I always get him turn up regularly in my decks. He'll turn up either in my hand at the start or at a point where I need it, and such a good card. So that this version wins hands down for me. Now, the art on this is okay. It's nothing exciting, at least for that version. But look at this. I mean, I actually saw an opponent running a premium Spine of Elder's Blood, and I was sat there mesmerised by the flame effect, and I was just thinking, I've got to keep my eyes off this, otherwise I'm going to lose just from staring at that. But I made a mental note, I thought, right, I'll go and harvest my own copy. So I did actually after that game had finished. So it's a very nice premium. I used to play this occasionally in animal decks, but obviously it's quite pricey for what it is, so it soon got cut out. Again, I've tried to play it in a mammoth deck, but there's just not enough mammoths. The art on it's okay. The premium's ever so slightly better because you got the interest going on in the background with the field. I can feel myself getting really tired, so I'm hoping I can power through and get the rest of these endurance cards done. I've been kind of recording for large chunks of the day because obviously it takes a long time to do these videos, and I finished off the willpower earlier, and then I've spent a lot of time like having to craft cards, so I've got copies of both standard and premium for everything. So I'm beginning to flag a bit now, so I do apologise for if I'm sounding progressively hoarser. Really like Umorel, he's very fun to play. Like the art, there's a sense of movement to him, isn't there? I'm less keen on the premium, funnily enough. I just think it does make him look faded in places. So I prefer the standard there. I have seen
there's at least one or two opponents who regularly play Wrath of Sithis in, I think it's in a Redoran deck actually. They do it to kind of slow you down late game. I'm not a great fan of the art though. It's a bit ugly, isn't it? Even with the effects, it doesn't take away from how ugly it is. So I'd say the premium is a bit better, but it's nothing special. One of the better looking orc cards. I actually think the standard versions look better than the premium. There's just not a huge amount going on there. Even think about how much in terms of gems you'd have to pay if the game was still carrying on. It's just a bit expensive for what it is, really. Almalexia. I actually like the art on this a lot. I think she looks really stylish. I like her outfit, and it's just a good feel to the card. I mean, it's quite nice colour, sort of contrast between the gold and honey and the purple. However, she's also officially on record as being the culprit behind the most depressing game I ever played when I was a newbie. And I think I was in middle tier, and I came up against it was a tribunal deck, and I think they had it by the end. They had Almalexia out on the board. They had Vivek out on the board. I don't think they got Sothos Seal because I hadn't actually seen him at that point. But I could not kill them. And I could not kill them. I didn't have much. I mean, I had a limited collection anyway, and I was like stuck there with them and these bloody gods on the board, and it was just they would not kill me either. They just kept toying with me like I was a piece of prey. And because a friend who taught me to get into Legends, she had a policy of never conceding, so I didn't even think to concede. I didn't even. Well, obviously there must have been some concept of a concede button, otherwise she wouldn't have said that. But I didn't. I don't think I knew how to concede at that point, and I was following the principle of not conceding, even if I had known how to do it. So I was just stuck there for ages while they were just toying with me. It was the most depressing match of my life because I was just sat there for ages and couldn't do anything, utterly powerless. I couldn't damage anything. So yeah, that was a particularly vicious combination. But she is incredibly beautiful. And I got that, I think I got her premium in a random, was it from an event reward? I can't remember. I think maybe it was when you get a certain number of packs on the Grand Melee. I think I got her the premium from that. And it's just so beautiful. So, again, very hypnotic card. Much as I like them both pretty much even Stevens, but if I had to pick, then I'd say the premium, just because it's quite hypnotic. This makes me smile. Whenever I used to get him offered in Versus Arena, I'd pick him because he's a very good way to get life back if you're struggling late game. And also, opponents have to address him, and there's limited removal to address him with in Versus Arena. And I remember playing a Versus Arena deck. I think I might have been on Empire. Anyway, my opponent had really whittled me down, and I managed to get one of these on the board, and it was downhill for them from there because I was able to get creatures killed every round and get 7 health each time, and in the end they conceded. I do prefer the premium. It's really he really does stand out with that effect behind him, doesn't he? And I like the blue, aquary blue colour as well. So yeah, premium's really good. Now, obviously, I'm going to like this card because it's a Skelly. And there's been several players who've specialised in with Skellies. I mean, there's one player on ladder, I forget their name. And when I first saw they were playing like Skeleton Tribal, I was really chuffed, but they were a taunter, so probably so I don't remember their name actually. But they were a taunter, and so that kind of took the gloss off the admiration of the fact they were playing Skellies on ladder. But there's Skelvani, isn't there? I remember K Fluffy playing Skelvani, so Skeleton Telvani, and getting a lot of success with it. And I like pairing skeletons with defensive Bruma, so that's very fun combination. Magnificent if you can get it to go off. I think I've got a couple of videos in which I've managed to do that. So yeah, I like Bone Colossus. It's like electricity coming off of him. And obviously, I like the sense of movement on the standard art, but that's just so beautiful, the premium, isn't it? And again, he just really jumps off the card to me because he looks just so... It's just the effects help him to stand out even more, so I like the premium a lot. Plus the sound when he comes out and creates a whole load of skeletons. This is one of the more disappointing dragons. Not only is the card fairly insipid looking, it's expensive for what it is, and I just don't really like the art on it. It's a bit too vapid for my liking. Or vapid, depending on your accent. That does actually improve it a little bit, just having the flame effect coming from its mouth, but it's still, the background's a bit boring really. So the premium is better for that, but it's not. It's one of the more boring dragons, isn't it? Now, I think, obviously, I know Think What Duke had done a video of Lich's Ascension. I found it quite a frustrating experience. I also remember seeing a match that Schwartz was spectating whereby the opponent and they were playing this with barter, which is quite funny and inventive actually. Sorry, Midnight's looking a bit cross at me because I dared to move while I was laughing. That's not allowed. He wants me to stay still so he can keep sleeping on my feet. Anyway, this opponent kept handing over with barter, Lich's Ascension, and clogging the other player's hand. So that was quite funny to watch. I thought it was a very inventive way of using it because I don't know if any of you have found this, but I found whenever I used to get it's Morrowind packs, you know, when you get the packs and that, it was always, if you got a legendary, it was always Lich's Ascension, the most useless card going. So I'm just going to adjust my headset. It seems to be sliding off a bit. It was always Lich's Ascension, and I just used to feel so cross because whenever I got packs, the last thing I wanted was that and Guildsworn. Is it called Guildsworn Honey Tongue? Two of the most useless cards in the game, in my opinion, along with Dive Rockfall. But if you're going to get a legendary and you're all excited to open the pack and it's got a legendary in it, the last thing you want is that, is it? Well, most people wouldn't want it. But obviously the premium is more attractive than the standard copy of that. This troll never gets any love, does he? The art on it's okay. Regenerate's kind of a bit of a damp squib as a keyword. It's one of the ones that most people consider to be weaker. However, that premium is quite lovely. I mean, obviously you can't really call the troll lovely, can you? But it's the purple aura around him does elevate the card and make him stand out more, so that's easily better than the standard art. Nargaleave, I actually he's one of the more handsome dragons, isn't he? Very, very useful, although he can be taken down quite swiftly with a territorial viper or with 3-feather war chief. Like the art on the card, and actually, even though I expect it, when you attack with him, the roar is such a powerful roar, it still makes me jump even now. Even though I'm expecting it. It's daft, isn't it? I do like the premium just that little bit more. It's got a moody ambience to it, hasn't it? He's one of the better dragons. Pure Blood Elder, obviously it's used a lot in greed decks. It's a vampire, so I kind of think vampire, I think of my friend Kate. And also, I remember the first time this was offered in an event as, I think it was a Grand Melee. It was offered in a... Was it offered? No, it wasn't a Grand Melee. It was first offered... Well, the first time I saw it offered, obviously I was not one of the original people who played TESL. I came to it relatively late. The first time I saw this premium version offered, it was actually it was an end of month reward for making Legend. And that was the month that I had a really horrible month, and I spent, I think it was 15 days in Snake just to get out of rank. Was it to get from rank 4 to rank 3 or rank? I forget what rank it was, but I think it was rank 5 to rank 4 actually. Yeah, 15 days in Snake. It was awful. Now, admittedly, I was less experienced player back then, but even so, it was still horrible. Can you imagine how demoralising that is, spending 15 days going in and out of Snake and you haven't even gone up one rank? Anyway, that month I did then manage to have a revival thanks to the very kind help of Davis AZZ, who donated a couple of decks to me. And those decks got me out of Snake, and then I was able to go back to some of my own decks and climb the ladder. But literally, I was playing my game to get to Legend. And I literally missed out on it by about 5 seconds because I just won the match and the clock had ticked over. So I missed out on the Pure Blood Elder, and even though it's not a card I particularly play, I was a bit gutted because I'd had such a month trying to get to Legend, and then to miss out on such a beautiful premium. So I was a bit gutted by that. But then it did eventually come back round as a monthly reward, and when it did, I got the premium then. Very, very beautiful. So obviously, compare the two. That's going to win hands down, isn't it? If you were saying which one's the more attractive card. Just very hypnotic again. Swamp Leviathan. Very few people will play this. It's okay for a reptile. The art's alright on it. I always think it looks a little bit dinosaur-y. Premium is just that little bit better because again you've got the effect in the background, mainly in the background, so it makes the art come, sort of draws the eye to the art in the foreground more. I was very pleased once because Elder Gleam Matron actually did give me one of these. No, was it? No, it wasn't Elder Gleam. It was what was the other one? The one that instantly produces a card. Was it Beast Stalker? I can't remember. It's the one that actually, it's a green agility card, and it actually gives you a creature on the board straight away. So I think it's a Spriggan, isn't it? Anyway, it gave me one of these, so that was like a 7 cost for really big hit power creature for virtually nothing. Really good value. But that often, it can also give you a priced chicken, so you never know what you're going to get. I love Banelord. I mean, he's great with Shearpoint Dragon, but he's also great in non-Goblin decks. I mean, you'll see him in Goblin decks where there's more of an element of control. But I like his voice. It's a very gravelly voice, and it really fits his character. And my theory is that he's saying, "More Red Bull, Lord of your death." So, more Red Bull, Lord of your death, or something along those lines. That's what I like to make out that he's saying. I'm sure he's not saying that at all, but I like to think that. Just because it entertains me. And, yeah, I like the premium that just a little bit more. His eyes are quite piercing, aren't they? And you've got a storm going on in the background. And again, because most of the effects are in the background, he just seems to dominate the card more and stand out more. Also, I think he was one of the first monthly rewards that I got, one of the early ones that I got when you get like a legendary card, so kind of follow me on that ground as well. Dark Seducer, really, really helpful. I don't play it often now. It's one of those cards where when you first see it you think, oh, I must have it, I must have it. and that, but actually I very rarely play it. I might occasionally put one in, but after I got it, and it is a very good card. It's just it's not something that I feel drawn to play that much. So it was like one of those cards where I was desperate to have it, and then once I had it, probably didn't use it that much. I prefer the standard version now. I just think it's a very pretty effect with the orb and everything, but I just think the art and the colours look a little bit more faded there than on the original. See, the colours just look a little bit deeper there. Now, even though this is it's a fairly useless card, it takes ages to get out, and you think that's going to be really good value, but a few times I've played it, I've never really got much value out of it. I do much prefer the premium version. Obviously, it's got quite a strong snow effect on it. Bit of glowing around its weapon as well. So yeah, clearly in my book the premium is way better than the standard version, but it's not that great a card really. You think at first it's going to give you a good value with the health gain, but not really. I play this in the Skelly decks. It's okay, the art, nothing too thrilling. The snow effect is what elevates this, so I'd say this is a bit better than the standard card. But other people seem to get better value from it than I do. Maybe it's just that I've always had bad luck. Quite often it'll give me some really cheap card, like a 1 or 2 cost rather than a valuable card. Other people seem to get their most valuable card back with it, so it's a bit annoying really. But still pretty premium. Now this is fun. I remember playing a friendly with Javelin, of the Australian player that I used to play a lot with, and he actually turned his whole lane into a load of 5/5s, and he had a premium one of these, and it was a really cool moment because I didn't even think about doing it to your own board. I was so focused on doing it to other people. It is very funny when you do it to other people. Okay, the art's not the greatest, is it? But it's a very fun card, and to be blunt, when you think how much that would have cost before everything was made cheap in the store, that's not that exciting a premium, is it? So, but I do really like the card. It's good fun. It's not something I play all the time, but occasionally I like to play it for a laugh. I know this is quite a popular card, used for ramping quickly, but the art's a bit drab on it really. Okay, the effect does actually improve it a bit there because you've got the sort of mist coming on either side of them, and that does help the character to stand out that bit more. So that is an improvement. It's just that on overall the art is pretty drab that it's based upon. Very mean looking individual, isn't he? This is one of my friend Kate's vampire crowd. I call them Kate's boys. The premium is okay on that. I just prefer... Okay, there's not a huge amount extra that you're getting for your large amount of gems. I mean, it's quite an understated premium. I just prefer the standard one. I think if you're going to put a premium effect on it, make it a bit more interesting than what they've done with it, but hey. Mushroom Tower, I'm not really a great fan of it, and obviously I'm looking to remove it if it comes down before people can get lots of value out of it. But the actual card art is, the colours contrast is really lovely there. I mean, I like that shade of deep blue. So I do like the card art on this. And actually, although it's a fairly understated premium there, it's managed to retain the same vibrancy in the card art, hasn't it? And in fact, there's a bit of a flame effect going on as well. So that's really nice. I actually prefer that. Mr. Night Talon Lord. Now, obviously he's one of my friend Kate's boys because she plays vampires. I also sometimes, it's one of my nicknames for Roxton friends when we used to play a lot of friendlies. As I used to call him Night Talon Lord because he's a late game player, and he's like a panther. I mean, you think you're going to have him killed, and then he Mr. Comeback has another one of my nicknames for him. He'll then manage to turn the game around somehow. Partly he's very fortunate with his RNG, but also he's a phenomenal late game player. So when you're playing against Roxton, you never assume that the game is in the bag, because it never is. But yeah, I call him Nighttime Lord because sometimes it's a bit like playing against a panther or a predator, and they just wait and for their moment and then they leap, and that's it. The game turns. So that's one of my nicknames for him as well. So I think of Rox and I think of Kate when I think of that card. And I do like that he's got a great line, doesn't he? I am the knight as well, so great line. And I do like both versions of the card. Let's just look at them again. Yeah, I think, again, because it's mainly a background effect, he just stands out that little bit more on the premium. So the premium is the better card, in my opinion. Such a shame this card has been abused so much over the past year in TESL. It's become a very lazy thing to just wait till round 9 and then reanimate Alduin without ever having to earn him through having dragons die. So such a shame that that's become a staple of, and it's infected every layer of TESL. Even like my friend Kate came back for a while to the game, and she gave up playing it because it was so unpleasant. This was even in like rank 12 to 9, and she just it takes the fun out of the game when you're always having to do that. Particularly if you like her, you haven't played a lot, and then you keep getting that all the time. So I'm not a great fan of the card. However, at least the premium is quite a nice premium. Well, it's quite hypnotic actually. Oh, thank goodness, because it's getting a bit late now. I've been recording card art stuff for quite a long period of time, so I'm getting quite tired, but that does actually, it's massively better than the standard version. There's a lot going on. You've got the visual of the two characters, and then you've got also a bit of movement over on the top left as well. So not a card that I would play because it's just got such a bad reputation now. But that's quite a nice premium. Now there is an alt art grave singer. I shall presume, I don't know, I've never seen it offered on any events since I started playing. If I ever see it on ladder while I'm playing before test lens, then I'll try and capture it to insert somewhere. But there is an alt art version of it. The art on it's okay, it's nothing that special. But I do like the cool effect when something gets charged and comes back. And the premium, although I'm not a great fan of the art, the premium is definitely better. It just, the artwork just stands out that little bit more. Manny or Manamarco, it's quite an ambient card. I like the mood of the card. He looks quite imperious, doesn't he? And the premium, although it's a fairly unstated premium, I like it because it's a combination of the purple and the green. So I'd say the premium's just that little bit better. Very powerful card. I don't often run him because it's I have a tendency of my decks to come out back to front. So if I put too many in the top end of the deck, then it's going to come out early with all those cards, and then late there'll be all the cheap cards that have got no value late game. So I don't tend to play him very much. Very occasionally I might put him in an Ebon deck, but not often. And Iron Atronach. Now, I always think it looks sweet and cuddly, which I know is not the word you'd normally think of for an Iron Atronach, is it? But I just think it looks a bit cuddly and that. And I used to play a lot of Transmogrify Rocks and Friends. It was great fun to play those decks. And occasionally he'd do, instead of the Alduin version, he'd do an Iron Atronach version instead. It was always quite funny when it would arrive. I mean, look at that. That is so beautiful. I like the art on the standard, and obviously I like the baseline art anyway, but that is just really beautiful and quite hypnotic. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes just to gaze at that. And I suppose it's going to appeal to me, isn't it? Because it's purple and gold. Yeah. And also the other thing that I think of when I think of the Iron Atronach is the Justin Larson video where he... It's one of my favourite videos of his, actually. I didn't discover Justin until he'd long since left the game, and I think it was Javelin told me about his videos, and so I went looking. And obviously, I, like many of us, really enjoyed his videos, and there's a video in which he has a mud crab merchant moment, and he's got a choice between... I forget what he takes, but he takes something that's fairly cheap, and there's an Iron Atronach, and he spends the whole game worrying about how he's going to kill the whale, as he calls it, the whole way through, and he's on like a lethal archer build. And it's quite funny, he's like worried the whole way through the game that he's going to get not be able to get an answer for this Iron Atronach if it goes that late, and of course it does go that late, and then just when when they get out on the board, because he keeps going on about the whale the whole way through the game, it's very funny. And just when they get that out on the board finally, he top decks Elena, so he's able to kill it. In literally, it's just so funny. So that kind of comes to mind when I think of this card as well. Anyway, that wraps up the endurance cards. I'm very hoarse now because I've talked my way through willpower cards and endurance cards, and even with short breaks here and there, it's quite a strain on my voice to talk continuously for this amount of time. There's a lot of cards. Anyway, this is a labour of love for me. I really wanted to have all of the cards in TESL. I know that there's some websites dotted around on the internet where you can see the cards static, and for those people who are inclined and have a good enough printer, they could probably print them off. But that's not the same thing as seeing the cards, actually, particularly the premiums, having them captured. And that's why I've been doing this card art series, is I want to make certain the card art is preserved online. So that where you've got like a moving version, like a premium, you can still enjoy it. And I'm trying to pause over each card, so those of you who wanted to like screenshot their favourites can do. So it's really just my love of the game is I want the art to be preserved, and not just as a static image, but also the moving images as well. So that's why I've been doing this, but it's a very big strain on my voice, so I don't normally talk continuously for like hours on end. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now and rest my voice, and that leaves me with so the multi cards and the neutral cards left to do. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments section what your favourite endurance cards are. And until we meet again, may you walk on warm sands.